Okay, so I have um, I have filmed this, recorded this many times throughout the years. And every time I do, I either make the video and I never put it up, or I didn't say what I needed to say. It didn't come out right, and I just couldn't do it. So I hope this one goes up. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I'm just gonna say what I need to say, and hopefully it all comes out right. I don't edit, so if there's a mistake, I don't know how to edit. So I'm gonna try to do this without crying. So it's hard. Any fan knows how hard this is. So the reason I feel I need to make this is because I have been a fan of Michael Jackson since I was 11. And he literally changed my life. I tell people he saved my life. And people that aren't fans, they don't understand that. I mean, my husband's not a fan, and he doesn't quite understand it either. So I know as a fan, it's hard to find solace, comfort. And I learned very quickly after Michael passed that I was not the only one that felt this pain. So I just want to say what happened. So anybody that can look at me can tell that I'm overweight. I've been this way since I've been 6. And so when you're this way and you go to school, bullying is always a factor. There was a lot of violence and mental and sexual abuse at home, and then go to school and deal with all the bullying and stuff. So it makes a nice little recipe for going crazy. The reason I say Michael changed my life or saved my life is because I grew up in Flint, Michigan, where there was a very rough neighborhoods, like the ghetto, the hood, whatever. And you're around drugs, alcohol, partying, sex, everything's there. And when you're not a part of that, you stand out. So you're the right one in a world full of wrong, if that makes sense. And so when you're the only right one in a world of wrong, you're looked at different as well. So at age 11, I went to live with my dad for a little while, and I was looking at MTV, and it was kind of funny because there was a color TV that was really big, and then on top of the color TV was a black and white little TV. So we had one of those, and I was watching Billie Jean, and I swear to God, I saw Michael Jackson doing Billie Jean, and it was like being touched by magic. It was like this little spark that it lit me up. I was like, wow. My dad was standing in the living room, and I remember it so clearly to this day. I'm sorry, guys. I remember so clearly to this day that he looked at me and he said, "What? haven't you ever seen little Michael Jackson? And I'm like, no, who's that? I didn't even know his name at the time, and it seemed so weird that that name wasn't even in my head at that time. And he said, that's little Michael Jackson from the Jackson 5, and I had no clue who he was. So that started my whole fandom. So listening to his music influenced me to where I wasn't a part of that spectrum of partying and all that stuff and sex and all that stuff. So anyways, his influence got me away from that. And then the biggest part is that when you're going through so much turmoil and stress and bullying and mental and sexual and violence in your life from different people, you start believing what people say. And I know a lot of people understand that because I know I'm not the only one that has gone through this. This is a story being retold and retold and retold. So but when you're constantly told that you're fat, you're ugly, you're gross, you're disgusting, why bother even living? What, you're only good for one thing, kind of, it's just this horrible thing that plays over. So through Michael's music, this one man who I never met saved my life by showing me that there was something else in this world to look forward to. And then I started, this is the crazy part, but I'm sure that a lot of fans do this and have done this, so that's why I know I'm not the only one. I started in my head this fantasy world. And in this fantasy world was a place that I could go to in my mind that got me away from the horror that I was living with and dealing with at the time. And when I turned 17 to 5 years, in that span from 17 on, I got counseling, and I was able to confide and bring out what happened to me as and this world I had built. And I was told that that saved me from going crazy or worse. So I was obsessed. I was an obsessed fan. Not that I felt that he was, I felt like he was like my best friend. And I wanted so much for him. So every time I heard something horrible on the news about him, I just felt so bad for him. When I was in school from 11 on to 17, I knew everything about him. There wasn't anything that I didn't know. And like if somebody wanted to know something about him, they would ask me. I tried, after I turned 17, I was getting counseling. I slowly started letting that go. I needed to take down my posters and put things away. And I still had that place to go in my mind, but I knew it was always there. Kind of like, for example, Christopher Robin. So he could go to see Winnie the Pooh anytime he wanted to, if that makes sense. That's the only thing I could relate it to. So anyways, I met my husband when I was 20. I got married at 21. And I started building a life. And at 26, I had my only child. And I had a lot of infertility problems, and I ended up losing 6 miscarriages, and I told my husband, even before we were seeing each other, and we were starting talking about getting married and being closer and making that big step. And I said to him, I said, okay, I said, if we do get married, I said, the firstborn child, my firstborn son, has to be named Michael. That there's no, that's the deal breaker. I know that sounds so funny, but you know, that's the way it was. So, when I got pregnant with my son, we were going to name him after Michael, and sadly I lost him at 13 weeks, and we named him Michael Love. My daughter wanted to name him Love, so we named him Michael Love. But anyways, that was my thank you, I guess. I don't know, it sounds so crazy. But anyways, I just felt that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to name my firstborn son Michael. And I always had that anchor, that common, the only thing I can say is anchor, you know, that touch of magic that I had was always there, and I always had that hope, even if it was little, you know. So fast forward to 9 years ago, and I got up, and there was a reason, for some reason, I was looking something up, and there was a reason why TMZ was on my computer. I'm not sure why, because at that time, I wasn't invested in this. You know, I didn't go there all the time for news. I was looking up somebody. And I saw this terrible thing that they published, Michael Jackson dead. And I'm like, why would you say something so horrible? And then it slowly started to, something not adding up. And I turned on the news. And for 45 minutes, I was in this flux of, first he had a heart attack, then he had a stroke, then he had, you know, all this stupid things that they didn't tell us. You know, that they try to tell us, but they didn't really know, so they were like kind of guessing, and it was just like, just stop until you know. And I called my husband at work, and I told him what was going on. And for somebody that doesn't understand this closeness, my dad was he had to have an open heart surgery, so he was in bad shape. So when I first called and I said what was going on, at first he wanted to make sure I wasn't talking about my dad. And so then after a little time had passed, and I was watching the video, and I was watching all these lies being told, and I remember thinking, can't be dead. I would have known. Isn't that stupid? Like, I've never met this man before in my whole life. Why would I know that, you know? It's so stupid. It's like, why do you think something like that? Isn't it crazy? Like, anyways, this connection, I guess, was gone. And I thought, if I wouldn't have let it go, if I wouldn't have let it go, I would know, kind of thing. You know, if I didn't lose that, if I still kept up with everything, I guess what I'm trying to say. So it was announced that he was gone. And those words were like daggers. And just before they announced it, I started slowly sinking in. Like, he can't still be alive if they're saying all this stuff. And part of me, the little glimmer of hope, was just like, they're just saying stuff to get more views and have people coming on. And he was gone. He had been gone. And at that moment, at that time, I was so upset, and I was crying, and my husband was at work, and he sent my sister over to be with me. My daughter at the time, that's ironic, she was 11. She was 11. And I told her what was going on. She asked me why I was so sad, and she used to love his music too. She's a fan, but nowhere near the way I was. But she, understood that it was that Mom was really sad, and she was swimming in the, not swimming. She was playing in the water sprinklers, and I kept sending her out there to have fun, because I wanted her to have fun. I didn't want her in there with me while I was crying and getting all upset. And so when I called my husband at work and told him that he was gone, he asked me who, because he wanted to make sure, again, I wasn't talking about my father. And at that moment, everything, it kind of like music died. It was like I did not have any joy anymore in music. It was like that spark, that magic was gone. It was like it left. So I used to say that one of the saddest things to see is when you hit a lightning bug at night and you're driving down a country road and you hit a firefly, and you can literally see the light slowly leave. It just dims out, and it just saddens me so much to see that. And that's slowly how I was feeling. It was like that magic was slowly going away, and there was this feeling of I had something to hold on to through all the crazy was gone. So years passed, and my husband in 2011 unfortunately was in a severe car accident with a girl that was texting, and he was severely hurt. His whole left side was broken, and he had a traumatic brain injury. And I was sitting in his room, and I was trying to find something to hold on to. I wanted some hope. I wanted something to... I didn't know how I was feeling. I know that sounds so crazy, because it's like, what are you talking about? Like, why do you don't know how you feel? What do you mean? I just knew that every time his songs come on the radio, I would either cry or I'd immediately shut it off, because I couldn't deal with it anymore. It was just so sad, and it was so I was so angry that there was no answers. And you hear this crap about, they shut the fans off from even having a part in the loss. Like, even now, you can't even go visit. And I mean, every year they let you put roses outside. And I think that is so crazy. It's like, you can't even mourn the loss without restrictions. And it's like, what the hell, man? I mean, even Elvis's fans, they get to have that closure, I guess. Anyways. So I'm sorry. I was sitting there in the room, and I was looking on YouTube, and I saw this Darren Hayes video that just appeared. I don't know why. It was just in my list, in my recommended list. And I didn't understand why, because I wasn't looking up any music. And I clicked on it, and I heard the song, and I was just like, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. Like, he is putting words to my feelings. He's putting words to my everything I'm feeling is what he's saying. And I could not believe that. I was, oh my God, I couldn't believe, yes, that's right, yes. Everything it was saying, and I was just like, and all the love's gone. Nothing feels right. I just feel wrong. That's how I felt ever since they said he died. It was just like the whole world, everything I went through, everything I was going through from the time they said he died, everything just felt wrong. Like, there's no other words to say it but that. Like it says in the song, and all the colors run. And I definitely, it was like that instant. So at that time, I listened to the words, and I started to feel better, because I was finally able to put words to my feelings. And it says in the song that there's a hole where my soul used to grow. And I listen to Darren Hayes now in the car. I have all his CDs. I'm not a huge fan like I was with Michael Jackson, but for some reason his voice and his words bring me solace. And his music right now is the only thing I can listen to. When I listen to music on the radio and everybody has their song, or, oh, that's a really good song, play, I don't, it's lost. I don't have that anymore. So in the song, it talks about a world that's being, block out the sun, nothing grows here, poison the ground, love doesn't want to hang around. I mean, I don't want to keep saying the words because I don't know if there is a I can get in trouble for copyright. I'm not sure how that works, so I don't want to keep saying it. Just look up the song, and it's I'm sure. So here's another thing. I heard that this song was recorded the day that Michael died. It has nothing to do with Michael, but most fans that I know of gravitate towards that song. And it makes you wonder why. Why do all the fans gravitate towards that song? Because it speaks volumes to what we feel. So after 25 minutes, I am going to post this, I hope. That's how Darren Hayes helped me to mourn the loss of Michael Jackson. And there's one thing that I can never understand, is that this one person changed the world for a minute. And he let everybody see that if you look in the mirror, you can change. You can make this world a better place. Your world, no matter what kind of thing you're going through, you can change and make it better for who you are, what you're going through, all the pain and anguish and all the stuff that people are doing to you. And you keep getting beat down and told how horrible you were. But when you look in the mirror, you can change and make you feel better. So, after 9 whole years, and I can finally put words to my pain and my loss, and I mourn the loss of a man I never knew, which is hard to understand. I mean, even for us, that's a hard one to understand. Why do you feel so much love and loss and pain and agony for somebody who you never met? And I say to people that that was part of his magic, that was his gift. And a lot of people, a lot of singers have that ability. Darren Hayes had that ability to help me, and he doesn't know me. But his words speak volumes, and it helps you to understand that you are not alone, that loss is hard to deal with. Loss is a void, an emptiness that can't be filled anymore. I've lost a lot, as so a lot of people have. 6 miscarriages. My dad, I was holding his hand as he passed. He lived exactly 11 months after Michael passed. And I was holding his hand as he passed. And it reminded me about the light that goes out when you hit a firefly, because that's kind of what happens. So I lost my best friend that I knew since I was 8 to cancer. I lost my dad to lung disease. My mom's dying of bladder cancer. My only child moved out of state, so I still have that baby fever of wanting another child and filling that void of still wanting to be a mother. But I've been drawn to want to start listening to Michael's music again. And I think that there's an album that he made, or was made, when he was little, The Best of Michael Jackson. It was before he went solo, but it's all his music, his solo music, I guess, like Ben and all that stuff. I think it's called The Best of Michael Jackson. Anyways, that used to be one of my favorites. So that kind of reminds me, I don't know the name of this movie. If anybody knows what it is, leave it in the comments below. Just the title of the movie is fine. It's not Life. and it's not Prometheus, but it's a sci-fi movie where on the ship there's this woman that is growing plants. She's a botanist, and she's trying to grow these plants, and something happens in the ship to where that room blows up. And at the very end of the movie, you can see these two little leaves coming up from the rubble. And that's kind of how I feel right now. Like there's just this little seed, this little glimmer that's starting to come out. I don't know why after 9 years, but I just want to feel that magic again. And I want to feel that I don't have the words. But I do know that for all the fans out there, I know how you feel. You are not alone. I'll end with that.